Welcome back to another episode of Sentience, Conversations about Lives Being Lived. I am your host, Alison. On today's show, we will be diving deeper into a topic that came to light during episode 3's discussion about Jiu-Jitsu and Brazilian culture, and that is the unique, and I feel incredibly moving martial art known as Capoeira. I had the pleasure of attending a Capoeira class recently, and over the past several weeks, as I have prepared for this episode, I have found myself immersed in the music dedicated to Capoeira and have experienced intense emotion in listening to it. What has continuously come to me over this period of preparation has been the notion of roots, both the history and ancestors that, in many ways, have shaped each of us. Where do our stories and traditions really come from? Do you know the journey your ancestors endured? How do the experiences of the past influence us today? For my own journey, my ancestral roots stem from different corners of the world, touching both the depths of darkness and the most intriguing elements of light. As I have explored my life and roots over the past several years, I continue to find more and more background that I am so incredibly proud to call my ancestral history. For many years, I spent life skirting around my own life, living on the outside of myself in many ways. But once I made the decision to explore, I never looked back. Examining one's own identity and truly discovering the beauty in it is a gift. Being able to share it with the world, I feel, is a defining element of the human experience. For today's discussion on Capoeira, it is my hope that you, as a viewer, are able to better understand not only the martial art and self-defense elements that Capoeira provides, but also embrace the history and lives lived that developed this beautiful art form, and see the struggles and vision for a life of freedom that brought Capoeira into existence. It is just so powerful. From Brazil to Hawaii, I am thrilled to introduce Sentience's guest today, Maui's voice for the Capoeira movement here on the island, Fabio Maximino. Welcome to the show.
Aloha, Alison. Thank you for having me. Thank you for all the brothers and sisters listening to us, watching us. Pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. It has been quite a journey to get to today, from our first meeting a few months ago to right now. It's just absolutely incredible, and I'm really thrilled and honored that you are here today. So thank you for making the time to be here today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I feel like we have a lot to talk about with Capoeira and your story. So why don't we start with you telling me a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name is Fabio Maximino. I moved here from Brazil in 1999. I wanted to go to Hawaii to go surfing, and it was right after school, so I didn't make it until the year 2000, when I came here to surf for, it was supposed to be a 2 weeks trip. And then when I got here, I fell in love with everything. Then I extended for another month. And then within a month, I started to get to know a lot of the guys. Then we connected with some cool people. And that's when everything changed. I didn't want to go back home, so I extended for another month. And then I got hooked with the island style and the culture and everything Maui had to offer. And a little bit of time, I just wanted to stay longer. And from 2 weeks trip became a 23 years trip.
You know, I find that very unique about Hawaii and Maui, and specifically. When I moved here, I was supposed to stay for 3 months, and it's been about 10 years now. So yeah. I understand that, and it's an interesting thing that either the island, you know, invites you to stay, or it says it's time to move on. So that's a really fun story to hear, that the island embraced you in that way. And can you talk a little bit about you know, that inherent connection that you feel with Hawaii and Maui in particular?
Sure. So when I moved here, I came with no expectation to do anything. I just wanted to explore and to learn. I wanted to learn English. I didn't speak any English back then. I just want to surf, meet people, explore, and learn. And I realized Hawaiian culture had so much to offer, and there wasn't too much people exploring. A lot of the visitors who would come here take advantage of the beauty, go to the beach and take pictures and leave without too much of the knowledge. And the first people I met, I learned right away their lifestyle, what Hawaiian is about. Hawaiian lifestyle is about fishing, taking care of the land, and that caught me like, I wanted to learn more about it, because where I come from, our people are very warm in Brazil, and we make friends easily. But one thing we have in common in Brazil, it's the culture. Music, bring people together. The art, martial arts, life celebration. We just celebrate anything all the time with everybody. And that's what I realized when I first moved here. I didn't know much people, but the little bit people I got to know, they embrace me, they hug me, and they share time with me. And for me, that was the beginning of my journey, because I started falling in love because of those people showing me how they live their lifestyle, and it was pretty similar what I used to live back home. And from that was just like a road of no stop learning. The first thing we connect was the music. The music was different just by the Hawaiian language. And you can't find Hawaiian music anywhere else on the planet unless you come to Hawaii. It's not very popular. Now it's getting more popular, but back then, 2000, I didn't hear anything similar. And because I was so far away from Brazil, I kind of missed my own culture too. So Hawaiian culture kind of brought me closer to my own self and make me feel warm, so I didn't miss home much. And that was the beginning of everything that opened up doors for me to learn, and that I totally forgot the time going by. I engaged with some people that sharing their own culture kind of opened up another door for me to share my own culture as well. So in no time, we just exchanging culture, and everything fell in the right place, because Hawaii and Brazil are totally different place, but we have a lot of similarities, a lot of things in common. Starting with the way how everything started, right? The Portuguese immigration, moving to Maui, everything happened in Hawaii, happened in Brazil 1,500 years ago. They brought the church, they brought the tropical fruits, they brought their culture to Brazil and tried to grow to make money. It was part of the economy back then in Portugal. And no different they did in Hawaii. They brought they're looking for a tropical place to grow the food and sell and make money, and also brought the immigrants and the culture, and then now it's starting to mix everything. So that mix changed a lot of the DNA, the original DNA, but also open up doors for different culture as well, the immigrants. So in Brazil, bringing the slaves from Africa opened up this channel to a new culture to born, and that's where Capoeira comes from. And in Hawaii, the mix of the immigration is starting to bring new people, and then change also. They brought the ukulele. In Brazil, they brought the cavaquinho, which is the same instrument, same purpose. Portuguese influence, but now each country, each place developed their own culture. So in Brazil, we play samba, which is the African rhythm. But when it was born in Brazil, was born with different instruments, not just drums, but also the Brazilian ukulele, which you call cavaquinho. They did the same thing in Hawaii. They brought the ukulele and they started playing Hawaiian music with Hawaiian language. So it changed, but thanks to these types of influence, it opened up to exchange and open up for new culture to born.
Well, I'm really glad that you've brought this up, because in previous conversations we've had, you made that connection, and Brazil and Hawaii are so far apart, physically so far apart, but the similarities and even down to the Portuguese culture, and it's just really quite striking to see just how similar yet how different they are. And it's amazing that you wanted to come here to surf and felt that inherent connection, and it embraced you, and are able to distinguish the differences between the two countries and really it seems like you really appreciate both of them very deeply. And so I think that's really beautiful and incredible. It's funny, it's such a vast world we live in, but it's actually very small when you think about it. And yeah, it's just, it's quite incredible. So thank you for sharing that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, okay, so with Capoeira, I am so impressed with the work that you have done here on Maui, and you've been doing it for several years now. So before we dive into your work here on Maui, can you provide a bit of background on Capoeira? And actually there's a lot of background on it, right? And it's just such a rich story and history. And so can you start to take us back to the beginning and the roots of Capoeira and how it has evolved in Brazil and worldwide?
Of course. There's a lot of books you can find different stories. I wasn't there to see the story, but what I learned was when Brazil was discovered in 1500, there was just native people there. So the Portuguese came and they couldn't make those native people work. So the first thing they did was find the right people to build up the country. So they brought the slaves from Africa because they'd done that in the past. They'd been there before the 1500. They'd been shipping slaves from Africa to all over the world, England, United States, everywhere. And then it was easy for them because those African countries, a lot of them, they already speak Portuguese. So the communication between the Portuguese people and the Africans was something easy for them. And geographically, if you look on the map, Africa, it's right across from Brazil. So we just ship like straight up, one straight line, and they, 24 hours later, they'll be in Brazil. So back then, they started to bring slaves from different parts of Africa. And what that did was, people in Africa, they used to be kings and royal families. In Brazil, they're all the same. They're all slaves. And the purpose was to build up the country. Portuguese colon, and took over really fast. So from the 1500 to the 1700, it was just the first and second generation of slaves just building the country. And then they moved the family from Portugal, the prince, to Brazil. And then there was the first king. The Brazilian king was actually son of the Portugal king. And he was growing up in Brazil watching all these slavery, and after a while, they were not comfortable with it, especially the Africans. So to make this long story short, the Africans moved to Brazil. They didn't know what was going to happen. The first generation, after 50, 60 years, they all die as a slave. And then starting to happen what changed the history forever. None of them went back home. They started to mix and have kids. So now we have a second generation of slaves born in Brazil. And when I say change everything, because now they're no longer Africans, but they're Brazilians. And the Brazilian people was actually the mix in between the Portuguese, the native Indians, and the Africans. The Africans already had this mix in between them from different countries, from different language, which happened that they started to mix their own culture, because each country had their own religion, their own music, their own dialect, their own language, their own music. And when they moved to Brazil, they lost all that, and they started to create a new way of living, which is an Afro-Brazilian culture. And they brought, of course, the roots from Africa, but they had to change in Brazil because of the conditions. And that's when the music comes in and the capoeira comes in. After the second generation, the kids now watching the parents die as a slave, they didn't want to be like that. They started to create a martial art called capoeira to be free. They want to fight for freedom. But it didn't happen to the third generation. Now we're talking about 1800. 1800, there's several Afro-Brazilian heroes that they really took over the responsibility of take care of their own people. Take care of its own people means let's fight for freedom, because you don't want to die like our ancestors. So they create capoeira, which is a combination of a bunch of different martial arts from Africa. But what happened was the Portuguese didn't allow them to practice. They knew it was dangerous for them to allow to practice. So what they did, they brought the music together and the religion music together, and they pretend they're just playing music. So every time the Portuguese come close to look what they're doing, they pretend they're dancing. So the martial art was the roots of these freedom expression, rebellion.
Fighters.
Yes, but to pretend they are not fighting for anything, they brought the music, which is something normal. They practiced religion. African religion had the music, the drums, singing, chanting. So they brought that, and now becomes a different culture, made in Brazil by African descendants, which we call Afro-Brazilian. So now Capoeira, the name Capoeira comes from these type of bush. Back then, these big farms used to be in the middle of everywhere, in the middle of the jungle. And the white people or the Portuguese people would set up like away from everything so they could control the Africans as they work. So you can't really escape from those farms because the Portuguese had horses and guns. Africans didn't have anything. So for them to fight was very difficult because they all have guards watching them. So now they put up a strategy together. Every time they escape, they would meet up in a different spot in the middle of the jungle with the natives' help. Now they're starting to get knowledge from the natives. How do you cross the jungle without getting sick or die? You know, it's a dangerous place. So they started to mix with the natives, and the natives create these place called a quilombo, which is a refugee place. When you escape, where are we gonna go? We're gonna go to this place in the middle of the jungle where they're gonna just get a bunch of guys together, a bunch of Africans together. And after they have a lot of people, they create this army. And the army would be coming back to free other slaves. And that was it took like several years. We're talking about like hundreds of years of fighting. And of course, the king was not happy after they find out that the black Africans were fighting and killing the Portuguese people. So it became a war. And for a long time, all they want to be is free people and live their own life. And that didn't happen to the Princess of Brazil, Princess Isabel, sign up and end the slavery time. Brazil was the latest country, the oldest country, or the latest country to extinguish and finish the enslavement. It was not until 1888. So, and you still can see the tail of that in Brazil.
Remnants of
exactly
that time.
But in 1888, that's when they signed the document, and the stories say Princess fell in love with this African hero, and she fell in love also with the story behind, and she wanted to be a hero herself. So what she did was she just took over the responsibility as a princess and free everybody. And Capoeira now has a different story, because it was created to free the people. It was a martial art to kill people. It wasn't a joke, it wasn't a game, it wasn't a workout. It was
self-defense.
Like, it wasn't a sport, it was a self-defense. They had to get free fighting because they didn't have weapons. All they had was the body. So they put a bunch of martial arts together and also learned some movements from the jungle, watching the animals, how they act, like how the snakes strike, how they hide in the bush. That's where the name Capoeira comes from. Capoeira is the name of the bush in this area.
Wow.
And then they started calling Capoeira because they used to hide themselves in the little bush, and the guys from the top of the horse couldn't see them. And once they started moving around with the horse, they would jump out of the bush and surprise attacking using the bodies, using the Capoeira movements. And that's what the stories say, and that's what I believe, and that's how I learned, and that's the story I'm very happy to share, because it is very unique and change people's life for good and the bad, because there is before slaves and after enslavement. And I'm on the other side, I'm on the new side, I'm on the side where we're free nowadays. But we keep tradition, like the music, we keep tradition like the stories that we share about our ancestors, and the culture itself divided in Brazilian Afro-Brazilian and Africans. So everything becomes one capoeira culture. So for tradition, we don't have a reason to fight anymore because we're free. You don't have to kill nobody. So that's when changed and became like a sport. So now we're moving forward, 1920, 1930s, the slaves free, don't have jobs, don't have life. They actually get kicked out of town and move up to the mountains where they didn't have anything to do, but they knew some of the capoeira. So they started using capoeira for bad purpose, to steal and make sure they get food, or to play games using money, betting. Let's play capoeira. And after that, they started to get side gigs like going to the docks and unload big ships. Unloading, load, that's how they used to work. But it wasn't like a job. So in between ships, they would be just sitting over there and fighting for money or stealing. And then some groups starting to create capoeira gangs to steal from the rich and share with like some type of like Robin Hood thing, like steal from the rich to share with the poor. And so moving forward, like now we're talking about 1940s, 1950s, now the black people starting to get creative and starting to create their own jobs. Fixing shoes for the white people, fixing clothes, making clothes. So now they can be utilized in the middle of the society, but wasn't for everyone. Some of the guys don't have to play capoeira anymore because they have a job. So capoeira was totally put on the side. And that's when Portugal, they prohibited, nobody was allowed to play capoeira because it was dangerous. So they did under the table, underground, because they couldn't find out, they couldn't know. And one guy decided to become a lifestyle by rescuing this culture from his ancestor. And that's one mestre, his name is Mestre Paixinha. What he did was he created a method of teaching capoeira. He didn't know because he wasn't a slave, he was son of the slave. And all he did was recreate capoeira, keeping a lot of the traditions, keep the music, the drumming, and he create this way of teaching kids. And now we have more people learning how to do it. Now this is a different phase of capoeira. Now people can do capoeira, but no longer fighting for freedom because they don't have to, they're already free. Now capoeira becomes a sport. So from the enslavement to where we at now, completely different, the purpose. But still capoeira, still the same traditions we share, the songs we sing, it's all important. Keep remind our people where we came from and what we do.
So all of the songs are in Portuguese?
Yes.
They're just so beautiful. Just listening to it, I've been really immersing myself in the music since we met, and it's just, it does something for the soul. It really does. It's just, it's very powerful and very beautiful, and
it is. And music,
so unique.
Yes, music does that, right? Elevates the frequency and make, you know, you can change the frequency. It can make you feel happy, it can make you feel sad, depending on what you're singing. One particular thing about capoeira instruments, in Africa, each instrument had a different purpose. When they moved to Brazil, they had to reinvent that. So the berimbau, for example, in Africa, some of the countries, they used to play berimbau for funeral. Was one note, very sad instrument. Nobody gonna play that. The only time you're gonna hear that is at somebody's funeral. But in Brazil, they didn't have a selection of instruments, so it's not they had a lot of options. So they just changed the purpose. Now it's like, that's the only one you have. Let's play to make people happy. So in between works, they had a little bit of time off. They would celebrate life with music and capoeira. And the berimbau became a happy instrument. So capoeira songs, we still can play with the frequency, just like every culture and every music. We can play happy songs, sad songs. We can talk about what's going on and improvise at the moment, but we also can sing about what happened in the past. We can make up, you know, songs about, we can make romantic songs, lovely songs. We can sing about anything pretty much, but the purpose of the instruments change because of the, they didn't have too much options. the drum as well. The drum was communication between people in Africa. They didn't speak the same dialect, but they played the same drumming, the same drums. So the drum became a bass drum, and most of the rhythms from Africa, they started to change and have a different purpose. So samba is an African word, and samba used to be a little different in Africa. In Brazil, was a rhythm that brought everybody together. In Africa, not every country plays samba. In Brazil, all the different African different countries, they all became one people, right? So the music came to bring people together.
Okay, my goodness, there's just so much. There's so much history.
It is.
Something that I'm really intrigued about, so with martial arts, I know that there's the belt system. So with Capoeira, it's very different than other martial arts, and it's more of like a rope, correct?
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So Capoeira, like I say, there is two parts, right? Before and after. Now it became a sport. So as a sport, just like any sports, you need a uniform. So Mestre Pastinha created his own uniform, which was based on his soccer team color. Was black pants and yellow shirts, which is a soccer team back in Brazil. And after that, his students started to graduate and started to teach other classes. There's another mestre called Mestre Bimba, was different area. He changed he changed the colors of his uniform, and it became white, because he came from a family from different types of different practice of religion, and this religion, they used to use white for practice. And since he was a capoeira fighter, he wanted to challenge all the other fighters, and the white uniform will keep him clean from getting bloody or dirty feet. So the way how he would position himself in the society, challenge other fighters, was if they finish you before you finish me, my uniform is still white. So that's how he reinvented everything. And he didn't have a belt system. He had a scarf, two colors, beginners and advanced. Now his students, after graduate, now we're talking about developing new system, because now capoeira is a method of teaching. You got to go through the process like going to school. Every year you do one grade, and if you pass, you graduate, you go to the next grade. So in capoeira, every belt is going to be a phase. So the beginners, we start off with no belt, then you're going to get your first belt. Then you're going to practice the beginning level. Once you pass that, then you advance. And our group back home, as a tradition, we use the Brazilian flag colors from outside in.
Okay.
So there's 4 colors: green, yellow, blue, and white. So we're going to mix those colors from outside in. And from different martial arts, the white is the last one. Judo, jiu-jitsu, the white is the first one. In capoeira is the other way, because we believe that you become capoeira master when you become master of yourself. That doesn't happen at the beginning of your life. Beginning of the life, you're just learning as a kid. It happens like when you become older in your life, then you're starting to master yourself. So the last graduation will be the white belt, which is the purest color. So that's a little bit about the history. Nowadays, there's different groups, and they have different colors, and everybody's free to change. But our group, we follow the same tradition our ancestors, which was descendants of the slaves that moved from Bahia, northeast of Brazil, and migrate to southeast Brazil, where I'm from. I'm from Rio de Janeiro. So those guys came down, and they decided to change the colors. And to keep tradition and respect, we do the same way how they used to do back in the days.
That's just beautiful, Fabio. I find it so intriguing and so, I don't know. It's very special. And the work that you're doing here on Maui, I'd love to really, dive into that now and see how you've brought your experiences from Brazil and your work and your culture, and how you've incorporated that into your community here on Maui, and the youth that you work with, and you work with both the youth and adults. and bringing the world of capoeira to them. And so if you can talk a bit about that, and then we have a really nice clip from your 10-year anniversary celebration of capoeira here on Maui. So if you would like to just share a bit about your work here on Maui.
Sure. I'm very happy of my the way how everything unfolded, right? Because I think the best plans sometimes have no plans. Like I say, when I moved here, I didn't have a plan to stay, and life just changed everything. And then to become close of my culture, I started to train capoeira by myself, and that's when it changed my life. Because one day I was at the beach training capoeira, and I met these local kids, and they approached me asking to learn. And I found out those guys, they used to do capoeira back in the day when somebody else came before me and had a little bit of time in Maui and taught them a lot. And then this guy had to leave and left them with no teaching, no knowledge. So they were really hungry to learn more. So when I connect with these kids, I realized I was learning more than I was teaching, because to teach capoeira, I had to learn English. So it forced me to learn English, the parts of the body, and how can I translate that so you guys can learn? I'm gonna have to learn English first. To teach the Portuguese, I had to learn English first. So I connected this group of local people, and right away was a life-changing experience, because I was teaching my culture, but I also learning Hawaiian culture. And that became one love. I fell in love with the culture because by teaching my culture, they're very open. And you know, Hawaii is not very open for all cultures because it got its own culture, right? We got the hula, we got the Hawaiian music, and that's very, very valuable. We love that. In Brazil, we also love our music, our own hula, our own music. And some of the countries are very close for that because they have their own culture. But in Hawaii, the locals, these kids that I met, they were very open, and they already sing in Portuguese. And that opened up for me also learning their own music, their own drumming, their own language. So in no time we had like several students come to the beach and training, to the point where I started to realize, okay, it's time for me to go home. And then once I made the decision to go home, they didn't want me to leave. Then I had to make a plan. So my plan was to stay longer, to keep teaching these guys, and also learn more before I make my way back. And then as I started to move on, the farther I got from home, because I was getting closer to Hawaii, because I was connecting with the culture. So as I was teaching my culture, I was learning their culture. So to the point where I got a job, I lost this job. My first job here was doing construction. I didn't do much because I felt the call from this group of people, and they invite me to work on one of the luau's, and that's when my life changed. Working the luau, you have the straight connection with the culture, right? Not just the way how you dress, but connects you with the history. Mm-hmm. And the more you learn history, the more you want to learn, and that's when you really connect with the true island vibes, the true Hawaiian culture. And I was hungry to learn, so I learned a little bit of the Hawaiian culture before I learned English. And at the same time, I was teaching my own culture. So it became one exchange, became one experience. In the morning, Hawaiians and Brazilians would sing in Portuguese and learn capoeira. At night, we all on the luau speaking Hawaiian or dancing hula and drumming. So I was happy that I got embraced and adopted by this Hawaiian community, because really was very meaningful, because not too much people wanted to learn. Not a lot of people wanted to teach, but I was happy and lucky that I connected the right people. And I worked in the luau for 22 years. I work in several luau's, the best luau's on the west side. And my best friends, they still work in the luau. And those that don't work in the luau anymore, they still live in the culture, the true Hawaiian culture, which is, you know, perpetuating the ancestor lifestyle. And then after that, fell in love with different sports like Hawaiian canoe, and the whole, you know, language, and starting to create this network of Hawaiian friends that I couldn't get away. So I've been here for 23 years, and I always trying to go home. And every time I tried to go home, something happened. Something good happened. Like I met some cool people that make me stay longer to teach class. And then now I was like, what I'm gonna do with this? I gotta expand, because we're doing so good. It's just such a nice project that the community needs that. So Capoeira didn't came to compete with Hawaiian sports or Hawaiian culture. Capoeira came into the community as another great option in the community, as a great tool of keeping people together and kids off the streets. So now I wanted to expand to the kids also. And we started to teach the elementary school. And we did little projects in all, pretty much some of the schools on the west side, somewhat up country too. And then it was very natural. The kids really like it. As a physical education, like a PE class, but with the music, it makes a little bit more fun for the kids, a little bit more interest. So the project really starting to grow. And my give back to the island was dedicating time to play with those kids and teach a little bit what I've been learning and help them understand what they from, what the ancestors. So it's funny because a Brazilian guy trying to teach Hawaiian kids a little bit about their own culture, it's not, you don't see that all the time, you don't see that everywhere, but for me it was a way of keep my traditions and my culture alive, because that's what I always did in Capoeira. And do that to the Hawaiian people, just open up my heart, and it made me more aware of my responsibility, and that's why I could never stop. Even though sometimes it gets super busy, my Saturday mornings is dedicated to the kids for the past 20 years.
Well, it's almost like destiny that brought you all together, and
I believe so. I believe so.
That's incredible.
Like I said, God has better plans for us. We don't know until things start to happen. It doesn't matter if you have a plan. If God have different plans, that's the plan. That's how it's going to happen.
Well, okay. So your organization is Capoeira Rio Maui. Yes. And I actually have a clip that I would love to run from your 10-year anniversary. So if we can please run that.
Awesome.
I absolutely love that, and it just, the community that you have built, Fabio, is just absolutely amazing, and a very tight-knit community. This is a tiny island, and you've really brought together a really incredible community and built this, and the work you're doing, and both honoring the Hawaiian culture and honoring your own Brazilian culture. It's so unique and so beautiful, and I really feel honored to know you and have met you and seeing this work that you're bringing to Maui and to the world,
Well, thank you. I really feel blessed. Like I said, I didn't have plan. I didn't plan. I think sometimes life just choose you and show you what's your purpose, your mission. I see this was the 10th anniversary, and right now we almost 20 years, 19 years doing this project. And some of the kids on that clip, they're just like 5 years old. Now they're already graduating college.
And still doing capoeira?
Some of them do. Some of them do. So it's very, very, good to see. Like some of the kids, they start doing capoeira with us back in the day. They're just kids, and now they all good citizens. There's no one kid in that became a bad citizen, a bad kid. They all going to college. They all going to school. They all important for the family. They're all good people.
Wow. Well, you're doing good work, Fabio.
Yeah, thank you.
And so I'm really excited. We're going to actually have a live demonstration of capoeira with Fabio and some of his, is it a team or?
Yeah, our capoeira group. We have Francis. His name is Capoeira. Capoeira name is Agia. We have Brother Mola. We have Daniel Lobo. And they've been doing capoeira for, I don't know, 5, 10 years, some of the guys. They're really good. They are my arms and legs. Very important to our community, very important to our students. They're the one that's gonna welcome you in the first class and take care of the kids as well. And like I said, just like the kids or adults, they come to learn, but also I'm the one that learned the most because they all come from different places on the planet, right? And they're all particular different humans. So when you combine all these energy from different parts and different frequencies, it just became one family. We became one family, and that's what capoeira does. Bring people together, and different energy become one super good energy that it's very contagious. So I'm very happy and very thankful to have those guys next to me.
Well, I'm very excited to see the demonstration. So we're going to go ahead and get that set up, and we're going to bring that to the viewers in just a moment. So we'll be right back.
Capoeira.
Breathe.
That was an incredible performance, and I hope that more and more people, you know, around Maui and whoever's watching this outside of Hawaii, you know, that they start to explore capoeira and find it in their community, because it's just so unique and incredible, and also healthy, and just community, and it's so much. It's incredible, and yeah, it's a gift that you've brought to Hawaii for sure.
Yeah, thank you. So capoeira, like I say, it is a martial art, but also to me, it's more than just martial arts, because that's the easiest thing. Everybody can come to class and learn how to protect yourself. But for me, the gift that you get from capoeira, capoeira is a great tool for you to discover yourself, become more confident. Capoeira builds and develops self-confidence, not just physically, but spiritual as well, mentally. Some kids that they don't really do good in any sports, in capoeira they're gonna develop that self-confidence, self-esteem. It makes you stronger physically, but also strong mentally, because you need to dedicate time to learn. Also, the music brings you a lot of joy, but also motor coordination as well. So there's a lot to learn in capoeira, not just learning self-defense, but when you bring the music together, it just increase all your development of different skills, and all these skills are going to be very useful in your life. Like I was mentioning, some of the kids that start off like 10, 15 years ago, some of them are superstars for me. There's Kai, this kid, he was a Lahaina Luna quarterback superstar. Now he's in the college playing football. A couple other kids as well playing basketball in college. They all get special skills, and when they're kids, they're just like another kid. So we can really see the results in all of us. And I say that because I include myself. Back home, grew up in Brazil, things could be going either way, good or bad, you know. And in Brazil, there's a big potential. So Capoeira changed my life, and that's my give back to my community over here. And I'll take that wherever I go, to give back, not what I learned, but how I learned and what Capoeira has to offer. It's just a lot of tools to make us a better people every day, not just to ourselves, but for those that lives around us. So you teach one kid, that kid is gonna teach another kid, and that kid being good is gonna be good for their family and as well the community. So Capoeira has that power.
Wow, wow. Well, to learn more about Fabio's work or to sign up for a class, you can find him on Instagram at Capoeira Rio Maui, and he would be happy to work with anybody who...
Yes, everyone's welcome. You don't have to have an experience. If you've never done it before, you're going to be welcome. You're going to have a great time. Just stop by, come, you know, just come hang out with us. Thank you.
It's sure to be a wonderful experience. Well, Fabio, it's been just such a pleasure having you here today. And I thank you for making the time to be here and sharing, you know, a bit about your work and your culture and your background. And I'm very grateful for that, so thank you.
Thank you, Alison. It's an honor for me. To me, to be here, it's a pleasure, but to talk about Capoeira, it's always good fun, good time, and thanks so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for joining us for Sentience, Conversations about Lives Being Lived. All episodes can be watched on Akaku channels in Maui County and streamed everywhere on the Akaku Maui Stream app. You can also view all episodes on YouTube. Sentience, Conversations about Lives Being Lived. I am Alison Samalita, and I look forward to seeing you again next time.